Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. I think we all kind of look up at the stars sometimes and wonder, how did this all get here? Like, what's the origin of the universe? Well, today we're going to dive deep into that very question with a bit of a philosophical spin.
Ooh, a philosophical spin, huh? I like that. It sounds intriguing.
It is. And what's even more interesting is the way our listener chose to approach this whole question. They're specifically looking at the idea that maybe, just maybe, there's a creator out there who wants us to learn something very specific from this whole cosmic experiment.
Okay, I'm hooked. What is it? What does this creator want us to learn?
Love and cooperation.
Ah, love and cooperation, huh? Those are big concepts. I mean, makes sense in a way, right? A lot of philosophical and spiritual traditions kind of lean in that direction.
Yeah.
But what does that really mean on a practical level? How do we actually live that out,
Exactly. And that's what we're going to unpack today. Your sources actually kick things off with a pretty profound question. If the universe was designed by a creator, what's its purpose? Why would this creator have created us and this world?
Big questions, for sure. So what's the answer? Or at least, what answer did our listener choose?
Well, they picked the response that says the creator wants us to learn, well, you already said it, love and cooperation.
Right. Love and cooperation. But that kind of begs the question, what does that even look like? I mean, the world can feel like a pretty unloving and uncooperative place sometimes. So where do we even begin?
Okay, so think about this. Our sources actually bring up this analogy of a shooting star.
A shooting star, huh? How's that connect?
Well, they kind of suggest that our lives are a bit like shooting stars. Fleeting, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But even in that short burst of existence, they leave this lasting impact, a kind of a sense of awe and wonder.
So even though our individual lives might be short, we can still make a difference by trying to live out these values, this love and cooperation. I kind of like that.
Exactly. It's like recognizing that our actions, even the little ones, can have ripple effects that we might not even realize.
Okay, yeah, I get it. So it's not just about grand gestures. It's about those everyday choices we make to be kind, to cooperate.
Right. And that brings us to the next question our sources pose. How exactly should we practice these values of love and cooperation in our daily lives? And why is this so important?
Okay, so how? Give me some specifics here.
Well, your sources suggest that maybe it's as simple as helping others and sharing our happiness.
Helping others and sharing happiness. I mean, that sounds pretty straightforward, right? But does it really make a difference in a world that often feels so, complicated?
That's where your sources bring in this really interesting analogy of, a pebble in a pond.
Okay, a pebble in a pond. Go on.
You drop that pebble in the water and it creates these ripples, right? Those ripples spread outwards. They touch more and more of the surface of the water.
Ah, okay, I see. So the idea is that these small acts of kindness, these moments of sharing happiness, they create a ripple effect, touching more and more people. I like it.
Exactly. It might seem small, but those ripples can really travel far.
It makes me think of all those studies about, the ripple effect in social networks. Mm-hmm. Scientists have actually shown how acts of kindness can spread through communities and, influence people way beyond the initial act.
Mo, really? So it's not just some, philosophical idea. It's actually backed by science.
It is. And that brings us to the third question, which focuses on how all of this impacts us personally. It asks, what changes do you think will happen when you share your happiness and love? What impact do these changes have on us and others?
That's where it gets really interesting, I think. Your chosen response to that question is that by helping others, our inner self becomes stronger, and we're actually able to bring even more positive energy to the world.
So it's a bit of a feedback loop. We help others, it makes us feel good and stronger, and then we have more to give back.
Exactly. And you know what? There's actually a whole lot of research in psychology and neuroscience that backs up this idea. Studies have shown that acts of kindness and compassion can literally activate the reward centers in our brains.
No way.
Yeah.
So helping others actually gives us a biological boost.
It does. It releases those feel-good chemicals, those endorphins, and that naturally lifts our mood.
Fascinating. But how does that actually make us, stronger?
Well, some psychologists argue that when we shift our focus to the needs of others, it gives us a greater sense of purpose and meaning. And that sense of purpose can really help us deal with stress and the difficult stuff that life throws our way.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about building this inner resilience that helps us navigate the ups and downs of life.
Exactly. Which brings us to the fourth question. If helping others can actually make us stronger, how should we use that strength? And how do we make sure it's not abused?
Those are important questions. So what answer did our listener choose?
They focused on the power of collective action, saying that we can use this strength to inspire others to do good, to basically create an even bigger positive impact.
Okay, I get that. The more people we get on board with this whole love and cooperation thing, the better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do we ensure that this power, this strength, is used for good and not for, like, selfish reasons?
That's where the sources bring in this really cool analogy of a flowing river. They say that if we try to hoard this power to keep it all to ourselves, it becomes stagnant, just like a river that's been dammed up.
Ah, I see. So instead of clinging to it, we need to let it flow outwards, let it nourish others.
Precisely. It's like sharing our strengths actually multiplies them. The more we give, the more we have to give.
Interesting. But then that brings up another question. Why wouldn't everyone want to share this power? I mean, if it has all these benefits, why would anyone hold back?
That's actually the fifth question your sources address. And you know what? Your chosen response to that one is that maybe some people just haven't learned how to share this power yet, or maybe they're just afraid of becoming exhausted by it all.
I can understand that. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the world's problems, to worry that we don't have enough to give.
Right, we all have our limits. So the question then becomes, how do we balance our own needs with this desire to help others?
That's a good question, and one that deserves some serious exploration. But for now, it seems like we've covered a lot of ground already. Welcome back to our deep dive into the origins of the universe. You know, before the break, we were talking about this really intriguing question.
You mean that question about what we can do to make the universe, well, a better place?
Exactly. What can you do to make the universe a better or more meaningful place? It really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
It does. And it's not just about thinking, right? It's about actually doing something, taking action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the path you chose through the source material, it really emphasizes that point. The idea that even our individual actions can have a real impact.
Yeah, that's the response I pick. You know, the one that says each of us can influence the operation of the universe. It says whether it's a small action or a big decision, it'll have an effect in some corner of the universe.
I love that idea. Like,
Yeah.
We're not just insignificant specks in this giant cosmos. Our choices actually matter.
They do. And you know what? Your sources actually take this idea a step further and introduce this whole new element. They take us on a journey to this mystical place called the Star Library.
Wait, a star library? Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What is that?
Okay, so picture this. It's this library where every single star in the sky is represented by a book.
Whoa, hold on. Every star has its own book, so what's in these books?
Each book holds all the secrets and stories of that star's existence. It's pretty mind-blowing, right? And it's in this library that a group of, young adventurers, they stumble upon this ancient text called The Origin of the Universe.
The Origin of the Universe. It sounds like something right out of an epic fantasy novel.
Right. And as they open this book, they're instantly transported to another realm, and that's where they meet this wise philosophical master named Xin.
Xin, isn't that the same name as the master in that shooting star analogy we talked about earlier?
You got it. It's like all these stories are connected in some way, right?
Yeah. Maybe they're like different pieces of the same cosmic puzzle, you know?
I love that. It's like we're uncovering these hidden connections as we delve deeper.
It is. And so Xin, this wise master, he starts guiding these adventurers on this philosophical journey. And one of the first things he does is he asks them this question. Children, he says, some believe the universe began with a giant explosion, the Big Bang. This theory explains many phenomena. What do you think? Could there be other reasons for the universe's origin?
That's so interesting. It's like he's not just saying, okay, here's the Big Bang, end of story. He's actually encouraging them to think for themselves, to consider other possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. He's inviting them to think critically, to question their assumptions. And the path you chose through this exploration, it seems to lean towards the idea of a creator, a conscious force behind it all.
Which, again, goes back to that whole debate about whether the universe has a purpose or not.
Right. Like, if there is a creator, then why create the universe? What was the point?
And that brings us to the next question our sources pose. If the universe was truly designed by a creator, what do you think its purpose is? Why would this creator have created us and this world?
And you already mentioned the answer you picked for this one, right? The creator wants us to learn love and cooperation.
Right. But that concept can feel so abstract. How do we actually put those values into practice? I mean, it's one thing to say love and cooperate, but what does that look like in our daily lives?
Yeah, good point. And that's precisely what the next question in your sources digs into. It asks, since the creator wants us to learn love and cooperation, then how should we practice these values in our daily lives? Why is this important to us?
Okay, so how do we do it? Spill the beans.
Well, the response you chose focuses on two key things: helping others and sharing our happiness.
Okay, those are good starting points. But some people might say, come on, that's not enough to change the world. What real impact can those small acts have?
Right, I can see how someone might say that. But you know what? There's a whole bunch of research out there that actually supports this idea of small acts having a ripple effect.
Really? Tell me more.
Well, there's this field called social psychology, and they've done all these studies on how acts of kindness and cooperation can literally spread through social networks.
Whoa, hold on. So you're saying, like, if I do something nice for someone, that can actually influence how they treat other people and how those people treat even more people and so on.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing. Scientists have even been able to track these ripples of kindness and see how they influence behavior in groups.
So it's not just some feel-good philosophy. There's real science behind it.
There is.
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to this idea that we're all connected, which is a concept you see a lot in Eastern philosophies, like Buddhism.
It's like we're all part of this intricate web of relationships, and our actions, no matter how small, can send vibrations throughout that web.
I like that. It's a great way to think about it. And it brings us to the next question, which explores how all of this affects us on a personal level. The question is, what specific changes do you think will happen when you share your happiness and love? What impact do these changes have on us and others?
And I think I chose the response that talks about how helping others makes our inner self stronger and gives us more positive energy.
Yeah, you did. It's like helping others actually energizes us.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When you do something nice for someone, don't you usually feel good afterwards? It's like a little boost of energy, right?
For sure. And there's actually a term for that: helper's high. Psychologists have found that helping others triggers the release of endorphins, those feel-good chemicals in the brain. So it's literally like getting a natural high from doing good.
Wow, so it's not just in our heads. Helping others actually has a physiological effect.
Exactly. And some researchers even believe that this kind of altruistic behavior can boost our immune system and make us healthier overall.
So helping others is good for the body and soul. I love it. But it makes you wonder, if we get stronger every time we help someone, how do we make sure that strength is used for good, that it's not, like, misused or abused?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And guess what? That's the exact question your sources tackle next. They ask, if every time we help others, we can become stronger, how should this power be used? And how can we ensure that this power is not abused?
Okay, so what's the answer? Or at least, what answer did our listener choose?
Well, the chosen response emphasizes the importance of using this power for collective good. It suggests that we should use our strength to inspire and empower others to do good deeds, creating an even bigger positive impact.
I like that. The more people we can get on board with this, the better, right?
Yeah.
But how do we make sure it doesn't turn into something like manipulative or controlling?
Right. Like, we don't want to use this power to force people to do things our way.
Yeah.
That defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. It's about empowering others, not controlling them.
Absolutely. And to address that concern, your sources introduced this really cool analogy of a flowing river.
A flowing river. Okay, I'm listening.
They explain that if we try to hold on to this power, to keep it all for ourselves, it becomes stagnant, just like a river that's been dammed up. Right. It loses its vitality, its ability to nourish and sustain life.
I see what you mean. It's like trying to control the flow of energy. It doesn't work. It just ends up getting blocked and creating all sorts of problems.
Exactly. The analogy suggests that true power lies in sharing our strength, in letting it flow outwards, in nourishing and benefiting others.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Perfect analogy. And that brings us to the fifth question, which kind of flips the script a bit. It asks, if everyone could use their power to help more people, like you said, why would some choose not to help others? Is there a reason behind this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Why wouldn't everyone jump on board with this whole love and cooperation thing?
Right. If it's so beneficial, why would anyone resist? Well, you know what? Your chosen response for this one suggests that maybe some people just haven't learned how to share this power yet. Or maybe they're just plain afraid of being drained by it all.
I can see that. It can be scary to think about constantly giving of ourselves, especially when we already feel stretched thin.
Totally. Like, we all have limits, right? So how do we balance self-care with this desire to help others?
Yeah.
How do we make sure we don't burn out?
It's a valid question, one that I think a lot of people struggle with.
For sure. And your sources actually suggest that the key to finding this balance lies in understanding the true nature of this power. They argue that it's not a finite resource that we can deplete, but rather a force that actually grows stronger the more we share it.
Okay. So it's not like a pie where if I give you a slice, I have less pie left. It's more like, I don't know, a fire, where the more you share the flames, the bigger the fire gets.
I like that. The fire analogy. It really captures the idea that this power is not something we lose by sharing, but something that actually expands and intensifies through the act of giving.
So it's not about giving until we're completely depleted, but about finding a sustainable way to share our strength and compassion with the world.
Yes, exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where we're giving generously without sacrificing our own well-being. And that brings us to the sixth question, which dives into the heart of this whole idea of sharing. Children, since power is infinite and sharing can make us stronger, why would some people choose to keep their power and not share it with others? Do they understand the true nature of this power?
And if I remember correctly, the response you picked for this one has something to do with trust.
You got it. You chose the response that suggests that maybe some people just need more time to learn to trust others. And, well, to understand the power of sharing. Because, honestly, trust is kind of essential for any kind of meaningful collaboration, right?
Absolutely. But building trust can be so hard, especially when we've been hurt or let down in the past. It's like sometimes it feels safer to just keep our guard up, to protect ourselves.
Right. It's like that old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Exactly. So how do we break down those walls? How do we learn to trust again, especially when it feels so risky?
Well, get this. Your sources actually offer this beautiful analogy for the process of building trust. They compare it to the slow, steady growth of a tree's roots.
Okay, I'm picturing a tree. I'm not quite seeing the connection to trust yet.
Think about it. A tree's roots, they don't just spring up overnight, right? They grow gradually, slowly spreading out, anchoring the tree deep in the ground. It takes time, patience, and the right conditions for those roots to grow strong.
Okay, I'm starting to see it now. So you're saying that building trust is kind of like that? It's a gradual process. You can't force it to happen overnight.
Exactly. It takes time to establish that deep connection, to feel secure enough to let our guard down.
But what about when those roots get damaged? Like when trust is broken, can it ever fully recover?
That's a great question, and it's actually the focus of the next philosophical question your sources ask. They say, children, since trust takes time to build, do you think trust can sprout like seeds in the initial glimmer of hope? If one day your trust is hurt, how will you learn to trust again?
So they're acknowledging that trust can be broken, but can it be rebuilt?
Well, the response you chose for this one compares rebuilding trust to, get this, building a house.
Building a house. Okay, that's an interesting one. How does that work?
The response you picked says, maybe trust is like building a house. Every injury makes us stronger.
So it's like those cracks and imperfections in the foundation, they actually make the house stronger in the long run.
Exactly. It's about learning from those mistakes, reinforcing the weak spots, making the structure more resilient.
It's like when you renovate an old house, right? You might have to tear down some walls, fix the foundation, but in the end, you have a stronger, more beautiful home.
I love that analogy. It's so true. And it's the same with trust. When we go through those tough experiences, when we face those betrayals, it can feel like everything's falling apart. But if we choose to rebuild, to learn from those mistakes, we can actually come out stronger on the other side.
So it's not about avoiding those challenges, those hurts. It's about using them as opportunities to grow and become more resilient.
Exactly. And that brings us to the eighth philosophical question, which really acknowledges that this process of rebuilding trust can be painful. It asks, children, if we choose to repair trust, there may be pain and anxiety in the process. What do you think we should do to persevere in the face of these pains and challenges? What can we learn from it?
And I think I chose the response that emphasizes the importance of seeking support from others. You know, like reaching out for help when things get tough.
You did. You picked the response that says, I think when we face pain, we need to seek help and support from others so that we can overcome difficulties faster.
It's like admitting that we don't have to go through this alone, that there are people who can help us navigate those tough emotions, those challenges.
And you know what? Your sources actually bring back that house building analogy here to drive home this point.
They do. How so?
Well, they point out that building a house, it's not a one-person job, right?
Yeah.
You need a team of skilled workers, each with their own expertise, to create something strong and lasting. And it's the same with rebuilding trust. It often takes a community, a support system, to help us navigate those complex emotions and make it through to the other side.
It's a good reminder that asking for help is not a weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. It's about recognizing that we're not meant to do this alone.
Absolutely. We're all interconnected. We need each other. And that brings us to the final philosophical question in this section, which kind of zooms out to look at the bigger picture. It asks, children, if the birth of the universe is the result of the combined effects of countless factors and forces, does each of us also play an important role in this universe and make progress together with the support of others?
So we're back to thinking about our place in the universe, how we fit into this grand cosmic scheme.
We are. And the answer you chose for this one is, I think each of us can influence the operation of the universe. Whether it is a small action or a big decision, it will have an effect in some corner.
I love that. It reminds us that we're not just passive observers, we're active participants in the unfolding of the universe.
We are. And your sources actually use this beautiful image to illustrate this point. They talk about the interconnectedness of the universe, how everything's linked together by this invisible force.
Oh, are they talking about gravity?
Yes. They use the analogy of gravity to show how everything in the universe is influencing everything else. Just like the gravitational pull of a single star can affect the movement of an entire galaxy.
Wow, that puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests that even our smallest actions, our thoughts, our words, they can have ripple effects that extend far beyond what we can see or imagine.
It's kind of like that butterfly effect idea, right? Where one small action can set off a chain of events that leads to something much bigger.
Exactly. And it highlights the fact that we're all connected, woven together in this intricate web of relationships.
So it's not just about understanding the universe, it's about recognizing our role in it, our responsibility to contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
Beautifully said. And I think that's a perfect place to pause for now.
Yeah, let's take a break and come back to explore how we can actually make that contribution, how we can use our understanding of the universe to make it a better, more meaningful place.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring, the origins of the universe and all. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It is. And last time we left off with this really big question.
You mean the one about how we can actually make the universe a better place?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to make a difference?
Exactly. What can you do to make the universe a better or more meaningful place? That's the question. And it's a powerful one. It is. It's like, okay, we've talked about all this stuff, but now what? What do we actually do with this knowledge?
Right. And the response you chose, it really emphasizes the point that we're not just passive bystanders in all of this.
Yes.
Like, our actions actually matter.
Yeah. The response I picked was, I think each of us can influence the operation of the universe. Whether it is a small action or a big decision, it will have an effect in some corner. I really believe that.
Me too. And to illustrate that point, your sources bring in this beautiful analogy of a tapestry.
Oh, a tapestry. I love tapestries. They're so intricate and detailed.
Exactly. And that's kind of the point. They're saying that the universe is like this giant tapestry woven with countless threads. Each thread represents, a life, a choice, an action.
Okay, I'm picturing it now.
Sure.
So each one of us is like a thread in this giant cosmic tapestry.
Yes. And no matter how small or insignificant a single thread might seem, it still contributes to the overall pattern, the beauty, the integrity of the whole tapestry. You can't just pull one thread out without affecting the rest of the design.
Wow, that's a really powerful image. So it's like we're all weavers in a way, contributing our own unique thread to this grand design.
Exactly. And what's even more beautiful is that your sources emphasize that when we weave with love and cooperation, when we choose kindness and compassion, those threads become even more vibrant. They add a special richness to the tapestry.
It's like we're adding our own personal touch of artistry to the universe, making it more beautiful, more meaningful with every choice we make.
That's a perfect way to put it. And it all comes back to that core idea we've been exploring this whole time. The universe wasn't just created randomly. It was created with this intention, this desire for love and cooperation to flourish.
So it's not just about figuring out the universe. It's about actually participating in it, helping it become, the best version of itself.
Yes. And that's why that final question is so important. It's not just theoretical. It's a call to action. What can you do to make the universe a better or more meaningful place? It's an invitation to become a co-creator with whatever force created the universe in the first place.
It's kind of empowering, isn't it, to think that we actually have a role to play in all of this?
It is. And the cool thing is your sources suggest that we don't have to, move mountains or do these huge, grand gestures to make a difference. It's often the simple things that matter most.
Like what? Give me some examples.
They talk about the power of everyday acts of kindness, like helping someone in need, offering a kind word, practicing forgiveness, sharing our resources, all those things.
It's like those small acts create these ripples of positive energy that spread outwards, touching more and more people, kind of like that pebble in the pond analogy.
Exactly. And over time, those ripples can contribute to creating a universe that's more loving, more cooperative, more in alignment with that original intention of the creator. It's pretty amazing to think about.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final thought you want to leave our listener with? Something to really chew on?
I think the most important thing to remember is this. The universe is not a finished product. It's still being created, still evolving, still becoming.
It's like a story that's still being written, and we're all characters in that story. We get to contribute to how it unfolds.
That's a great way to put it. So yeah, to our listener, go out there and make the universe a better, more meaningful place. Embrace the power of your choices, your actions. And remember, you're not alone in this. We're all connected, all part of this grand tapestry.
Beautifully said. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's inspired you to think differently about, everything. The universe, your place in it, the power you have to make a difference. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep weaving your own unique thread into this incredible tapestry of existence.